I think season 5, episode 58. Yes, it's the 58th episode of season 5, which means we are a mere 11 episodes away from the conclusion of season 5, episode 69. And in episode 6, all sorts of new features will be launched. Can I tell you what they are now? No, because I haven't thought of them. Will they be good? Possibly. Hey Mark, how are you doing? It's not. I nearly said the trash future. It's the free one voice. But in fact, it's always the free one here. Hello, Neon Lady. I'm glad that you appreciate the episode title. Today's episode title, Boba Fetlife. It's a three magazine. It's a three magazine special. Hello, SK. How are you? So today we are going from the sublime to the ridiculous, back again, and I'm glad everyone appreciates the title. This pleases me greatly. So, we've got Infinity Magazine, which is like weird retro nostalgia sci-fi stuff. We've got Empire, current sort of trapped by the Marvel Industrial Complex stuff. And finally, The Atlantic, the most lib-brained magazine in the world. So here you go. Mark Canosis just had a stupidly expensive burger from Miller and Carter. It's worth every penny. Excellent. So basically, it's all nerd magazines today, with The Atlantic being the representative of lib politics nerds. Right. So we're going to start with Infinity. And now, as is often the case with the magazine special, but particularly today, I've not read any of these yet. I've not cracked the covers at all. Person in the room, who is currently person on the sofa, had to go and have a wisdom tooth out. So that is what I've been doing today, popping over there to pick her up from the hospital. And you may see in the background the Gilmore Girls going on the TV. Think about you're giving nerds bad. I am a nerd. Why would I spend all my time, I'm a media criticism nerd, aren't I? Right, so, this magazine's called Infinity, the magazine beyond your, and then they stuck Darth Vader over their own strapline. This is issue number 42. On the front cover, Cinema Alchemist, Roger Christian, on designing Star Wars Alien and more. This could be good. Plus, Midsummer Murders Country, Topper Comic, Frankie Howard, Comedy Writer Confessions, 321, Models, News and More. Star Trek from Phase 2 to Motion Picture. From the Land Beyond, The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, and Tolkien Radio, The Sound of the Rings. Right, so this magazine comes from the same publishers as the publishers of as Darkside, the magazine of the macabre and the fantastic, which we may do in the future. But basically, this is a magazine for people who really love those. Do you remember when the bin men were hard? Facebook memes, but and also do you remember when we had milk bottles or whatever? Darkseid, the magazine for totalitarian aliens. One reader, but he's delighted. Right, so elsewhere in here, topper of the day to you, comics aficionado Mark Campbell. Looks like a comic. Welcome. It never did me any harm, I can tell you. As a regular reader, I often like to use these editorials. Look back on my happy childhood years. Yes, look, literal nostalgia shit. Right, Infinity News, there's a new book coming out, the official story of Escape from New York. Avatar 2 is nearly out, and there's some new Doctor Who games. Right, then they've got a feature on Topper, which was eventually, I believe, subsumed into the Beano, but there you go. Topper magazine. Comics aficionado Mark Campbell sets aside his regular headgear of bowler hat or fez. He's a wacky guy. And tries on a top hat for size. He looks back at another fondly remembered childhood comic. And there we go. As people said, wasn't Avatar 1 bad enough? They're going to do 4 Avatars. Call my new mag Topper, but for an entirely different audience, it's Chronotherm. Then there's a whole thing of where people are writing in about old magazines they liked. Okay, the Magic Christian. Roger Christian revolutionized the look of the fantasy cinema with Star Wars, Alien, and cult period drama Black Angel. In the first of two-part interview, the Oscar-winning art director and filmmaker talks to Roger Crow about creating the lightsaber, R2-D2, and other iconic props, which is kind of cool. He's got a book coming out called Cinema Archivist. I mean, if you're into Star Wars, it's quite good at articles. It's about, you know, how he created Han Solo's blaster and all that kind of stuff. But whenever there's a two-part interview, it's mainly because the nerdlinger who wrote the interview couldn't bring himself or herself or themselves to reduce the word count, basically. Yu-Gi-Oh! I spent 3 minutes to make a reference from the magazine Dark Side about the Space Hopper Alien movie. Then I just remembered it's called Dark Star. There we go. Right, there's an article on Midsummer Murders. Mark Hume Jones checked out some of the most famous film and TV locations in the Chilterns and Thames Valley. No, really. Comes with a little map. Pages of that. There's about 6 pages of that. Right, from the Master of Magic's author, Mike Hankin, looks back on the making of the Ray Harryhausen fantasy classic, The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. Again, that's kind of interesting. But far too many pages, just goes on and on. Some good pictures in it, though. There's some posters, literally old school, like there's a nice Star Wars poster you can pull out here. Right, in the reviews, Infinite, which is a new Mark Wahlberg and Chiwetel Ejiofor film, gets 3 stars. Isn't there a bunch of brown face in the Sinbad film? Probably. It's a pretty old film at this point. Midsummer Murders equals Hardcore Mum TV. Kinyu92 says Hardcore Mum TV is very different. Mark Kenosis, no, Hardcore Mum TV is a very different program. Kinyu and Mark Kenosis there in a battle for who can make those jokes quickest. They review Yokai Monsters Collection, much of hiding in plain sight. A bonus featurette on Arrow's latest deep dive into the demented cinema world of Dial Studio concerns itself with setting exactly what yokai are. Are they monsters, ghosts, fairies, figments of an uneasy conscience? Choice specimens include a giant cocktail umbrella with one eye, one leg, and a permanently lolling tongue. A woman with a long and winding serpentine neck, and a guy who looks like Count Duckula after a particularly heavy night on the tiles. If you think of them as Pokemon conceived on bad drugs and with a bad attitude towards those who perpetuate social injustice in Edo period Japan, you've got the hang of it. This sounds awesome. Mark says, I usually get there first, but I'm eating chips. Yeah. There's a whole feature on 321, the game show that went on through the 70s, which featured Dusty Bin. I mean, this is honestly like just nostalgia fest. Star Trek Phase 2. Stephen McLaughlin looks at the Star Trek series that might have been and its cancellation on the starting blocks, how its cancellation on the starting blocks brought it to the big screen. So yeah, there was nearly a Phase 2 series of Star Trek. It didn't happen, and they turned that stuff into the movie. There's a thing about Frankie Howerd, who died in 1992. Not quite sure why they were just a regular feature called Past Masters of Comedy. Titter ye not, indeed. Pages of that. Yeah, there is a film version of Up Pompeii called Up the Chastity Belt. So there we go. And he also features in films such as Up Front, a sex comedy set during the Second World War. A funny way to make a living. Alan Whiteman looks back to his career as a so-called comedy writer for the likes of the two Ronnies, Jimmy Tarbuck and Des O'Connor. They asked him to send in a picture, and then he sent in one from his webcam. Mark Kenosis, not so much bait as an excellent cross, it just needs tapping into the goal. I don't know if those are the right football terms. I'm not Aaron Bastani. Up the chastity belt. Generally don't want things going up a chastity belt. Very dangerous, says Yu-Gi-Oh! Molesworth Musing. Richard Molesworth recalls the glory days when the force was strong in the UK with Star Wars Weekly. Honestly, this is just Do You Remember When magazine, isn't it? There's a lot of reading in here for your money, though. In model behaviour, Andy Pearson takes flight with another column on vehicular model kits. Only this time, where he's going, he doesn't need roads. So, it's planes. It's planes. The Sound of the Rings. 4 decades on, Brian Sibley's radio version of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings has stood the test of time. Brian J. Robb explores the makings of the radio series and examines its impact on Peter Jackson's film trilogy. They couldn't seem to find a picture where John LeMessurier doesn't look like he's asleep. In fact, he probably is asleep. This is very much Peter Kay magazine, the Burnzoid. King United 2, I was going to say Bin Man was Ard Monthly, but again, that's a very different magazine. Yes. Anyway, this goes on for some time, and they talk to Brian Sibley, the guy who adapted it for the radio. That is quite good, actually, the audio version, but it goes on for too long. Another magazine they have, Classic Screen Monsters. For £22.50, you can get this big magazine about classic screen monsters, which, I mean, sounds fine. And you could get all the back issues if you want. And next issue, they will have another thing on Roy Harryhausen, more on Doctor Who, and stuff on Life of Brian and whatever. If it wasn't against terms of service, it would be funny to have a magazine special on nuts or something, says King United 2, if they're still going. They are not still going, but you can get old editions. I might do a retro one of various other ones. Anyway, that's Infinity Magazine. Right, so it costs £4.25, but it has got a lot of reading in it. And I don't know, if you've got like an uncle or a dad or someone who relentlessly talks about the TV of their childhood, then this TV and films of their childhood, they'd probably appeal. Nothing particularly offensive in there. Mark person who are painstakingly applying stickers to an issue of Razzle. Heathmore 2401, this is literally a magazine full of the stuff my parents like. Well, in fairness, it's kind of, you've got relatively cool parents then. Like I say, for what it is, relatively inoffensive, massively, like, you know, it is, there's a lot of dudes on Facebook that would like this. Anyway, you know what, I give it a 6 out of 10. I give it a 6 out of 10. It would be, yeah, Mark Knows is right, it passes the train journey test. There's a lot of interesting stuff in it. And various things I didn't know about. Some things I couldn't give a fuck about as well. So yeah, I'll give that a 6 out of 10. Now, we've covered Empire a good number of times in on the stream. I think this is probably the 3rd time we've covered Empire, but it has a new editor, and it is also Star Wars related today, so I sort of got it partly as it connects into the theme. So yes. Yeah, 6.9 out of 10. A 10th of a nice from Selenkamaya for Infinity Magazine. Yeah, decent price as well. Not terribly overpriced. Like, good amount of reading in it. Not a lot of ads, actually. Very few ads. Right, so, Mark Canosa, 7 out of 10. Nerd shit, but the wholesome kind of nerd. Yeah, fully the wholesome kind. We'll actually probably read it properly later. Right, so we're on to Empire, front page of Empire. The Mandalorian is coming back, and that means it's coming back. It's good, I guess. But it's Boba Fett is playing a big role in that this time, so he's on the front cover. The OG Mandalorian is back to shake up the galaxy, plus the future of Star Wars, first word on Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and more. 2021 reviewed the stars, the surprises, and the odes to seagulls. Ralph Macchio from The Karate Kid and Cobra Kai is interviewed. Steven Spielberg talking about West Side Story, and the excellent Catherine Hahn, who most recently appeared in WandaVision. Gledster, I love how this channel can go from grossly offensive Daily Mail on Thursday to inoffensive magazine on Friday. Ace, thank you, Gledster. I do my best. Heathmore says 7 out of 10, solid geek content. Book of Boba Fett looks pretty cool, actually. It does look cool. It does look cool. I love, you know, Boba Fett is cool, isn't he? Right. Inside the magazine, they start with a big ad for The Power of the Dog, which is Jane Campion's Western with Benedict Cumberbatch in it. Then, various ads. First, First content. Inside Star Wars' new TV empire. Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy on the many Galaxy set shows not far away. Michael Bay has got a film coming out called Ambulance. A thriller which takes Jake Gyllenhaal and Yahya Abdul-Mateen II as Danny and Will Sharp, two adopted brothers who immediately after a bank job that goes wrong find themselves commandeering an emergency vehicle in a desperate plan to escape, except it doesn't go to plan. Not only are they being tracked by law enforcement and the media, but it turns out a paramedic is in the back, along with a wounded cop who, just to twist the knife a little, was wounded during the robbery. But this being a Michael Bay film, it's going to be ridiculous. There's a massive explosion. Boba Fett had a grand total of 3 lines in the original trilogy, which made him by far the best character. Yeah, because you didn't know too much about him. Mark Kenosis, assuming there's a sex content producer called Amandalorian by now, you've got to hope so, haven't you? The Burnzoid, I remember getting into a fight at a birthday party at Laser Quest about who got to call themselves Boba Fett when we were 11. Sensible argument. In the Black in Focus column, Amon Warman choose over the main moment in black film and TV this month. His classic pick is the original Blade, 1998. There is a new Blade coming, and then he's writing about the documentary Colin in Black and White, which is about Colin Kaepernick. Interesting. I don't know where that's showing, but it's good, and I like they have a column. Column about that. It's pretty good. Hopefully that doesn't mean that it reduces the coverage of black films or black-led films and directed films elsewhere in the magazine. I don't think it does. Number 3, when Mahershala met Mahershala, when Mahershala met Mahershala, you're right, the awarding actor on acting opposite himself in a new sci-fi drama swan song. Well, he's a great actor, Mahershala Ali. Next in the series, you fell in love with that incredible new show, and then it ended. Boyd Hilton recommends stuff for people who like Squid Game but want to watch other things. My Name is a South Korean set gangster saga. Alice in Borderland is a Japanese 8-part about a bunch of youngsters who find themselves in an alternate reality, abandoned version of Tokyo, where they're summoned by a mysterious force to take part in a series of brutal, elaborate games. I mean, I feel like if you just watch Squid Game, you probably don't want to watch the same again. Panic is on Amazon Prime, another thing about like a brutal game. And The Prisoner is on BritBox. Yu-Gi-Oh! Hear me out. Jango Fett was inherently cooler than Boba Fett. Hey, Pablo Bonzo, how you doing? Sweet Home is a canny Korean horror TV series. Cool. Right. There's a really interesting feature thing here about creating a new horror mask for the new film, The Black Phone. That is a scary fucking mask, to be fair. There's a new Barbie film coming out with Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. It's going to be, I'd say in the kind of like Lego movie style irony fest. Joanna Hogg writes about how the student movie within the Souvenir Part 2 emerged almost by itself. Fast and Furious, there's a thing about how Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Vin Diesel have been feuding. It's an interview with Benedict Cumberbatch, who says to be involved in an Oscar conversation gets a little bit odd. Talk about the next part of June. Black Phone does look good, to be fair. There's Roland Emmerich has got a new disaster film coming out. So there's quite a nice little feature where they compare the body counts of his various disaster films. 3 billion in Independence Day, 500 to 1,000 in Godzilla, 100 million in The Day After Tomorrow, 6.5 billion in 2012, and 6 in the film Anonymous. Benny comes, as Mark Kenosis calls Benedict Cumberbatch. There is a biopic of, sort of a biopic. A thing about Operation Mincemeat coming out, the war drama called Operation Mincemeat, and Johnny Flynn plays Ian Fleming in it. There's a nice little in memoriam to Dean Stockwell. there's so much. To be fair, the Empire is good value. In the pint of milk questionnaire, which I've always liked this interview, does, let's see, how much is a pint of milk? Christina Ricci thinks a pint of milk in London is £4, but she was thinking gallons for a pint. She then says 2p. Dingle Dick Bendy Butt, says the Burnzoid. In the reviews, Tragedy of Macbeth gets 5 stars. I do want to see that. That looks beautiful. It's Joel Cohen now directing on his own. The Power of the Dog gets 4 stars as well. Rebel Dykes tells a little-known story of friends who met in the 80s and bonded over art, punk, and most importantly, queer women's rights. That gets 4 stars. Pirates, Reggie Yates, his directorial debut, gets 3 stars. Silent Night, group of old university friends gather at Keira Knightley, her character's home, to celebrate the festive season, but to be together when sometime after Boxing Day, a toxic cloud will blow in and kill them all. Blimey. The Eternals, they only gave 3 stars. A lot of people are a bit for the Eternals. Encounter gets 4 stars. A Boy Called Christmas, the film based on Matt Haig's book, gets 3 stars. I would rather watch film of my own future execution. Wrath of Man, the new Guy Ritchie film with Jason Statham, is on Amazon Prime Video from 10th of December. It's an LA neo-noir with high-voltage action and an ice-cube cold Statham. Gets a bit tangled up in its time-hopping reveals, but it's a largely enjoyable rattlesnake mean thriller. 3 stars. I will watch that. I watch basically all Jason Statham films, and I make no apologies for that. Do you know if it's related to the Rebel Dykes art show? I will flip back and have a look for you, Slinker. Right, I'll read the whole thing for this. Rebel Dykes tells a little-known story of friends who met in the 80s and bonded over art, punk, and the most importantly, queer women's rights. Made by a team of women and non-binary artists making a first foray into film, this accomplished documentary includes revealing eyewitness accounts and testimonies from those at the heart of the movement. The film emphasises how they shook the core of Westminster, be it via protests against Section 28 or demands for action around HIV. While archive footage used is at times raw, it only serves to emphasise the DIY nature of this revolutionary group who changed queer women's rights forever. What is pronounced Wrath of Khan? I do love Wrath of Khan. There's a documentary about Rita Moreno. That's 4 stars. Anyway, good reviews. Wrath of Man. Right, yes, Wrath of Khan. Red Notice, the Rock and Ryan Reynolds film, which is on... Rock, Ryan Reynolds, and unfortunately Gal Gadot film on Netflix. Red Notice gets 3 stars. I've watched it. It's passable. The Rock is The Rock. Ryan Reynolds is Ryan Reynolds. No Into Darkness. It's a film called Bad Luck Banging or Loony Porn. Romanian's entry into next year's Oscars, Bad Luck Banging, is a genuine oddity. Director Radu Jude takes a simple premise. Teacher Emmy, his career is threatened by leaked sex tape, and laces it with gonzo porn, social satire, and an avant-garde alphabetical interlude. We learn blowjob is the most looked up word in the online dictionary, before climaxing with Emmy facing parents baying for blood. The sections never really coalesce, and Jude's approach often shifts from Emmy to observe pandemic Bucharest thoughts engagement, but Bad Luck Banging has funny moments. Okay, that gets 3 stars. Tick Tick Boom, now on Netflix, which is a new documentary, new musical, directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda, based on Jonathan Larson's autobiographical musical. That also gets 3 stars. I started watching that. Funny but empty, Red Notice. I would agree with that. I think it is related, Slenka. Yeah, I do think it's related. The Wheel of Time, Amazon's new sorcery and horses epic, gets 3 stars. I fancy it, to be honest. I think it looks good. Right, Most Wanted. Reports of his death were greatly exaggerated. Star Wars iconic bounty hunter is back for good. And as the Book of Boba Fett is here to prove, there's a lot more to the burgeoning crime lord than kick-ass armor. I mean, the pictures in this are fantastic. Yeah. Says Boba Fett with his helmet not on. This is a good. Yeah, this is a good. This is a good feature. It's well written. Showtime, two rival gangs, the West Side Story. I mean, I really love the design of this the feature on Spielberg's West Side Story. The Burnside, I read 8 of the Wheel of Time books before I had to give up. Is it a bit hard going? Pablo Bonzo says, enjoying Hawkeye, big fan of the Matt Fraction book it's based on. Yeah, I really enjoyed the Matt Fraction book, and I'm glad that they're kind of hewing quite closely to that. Tracksuit Mafia are extremely funny in it. Slinkermeyer read the Wheel of Times books over my life for over a year. There's 14 of them. They're all bricks, and the author died before finishing them, so the last 3 were co-authored. Welsh language subtitles for Red Notice, so I've heard, says Gethin Wyn Jones. Oh, okay. I loved it. This is, like, I love this, the design of this page for the Ralph Macchio interview. Like, that's just really nicely done. Classic bit of, colour usage. Again, I really love that picture as well. The design in I have to say, the design in Empire is reliably good. Review of the year. So, classic review of the year. These are always fun. I like these because they're a good way to catch up. And it's a good way to get interviews with people from across the year. Catherine Hahn. Beautiful design there, like on that page again, and just great pictures of Catherine Hahn. Yeah, so just really well designed. Love this, the way they've done this with the interview with Brett Goldstein. They've turned him into a Subbuteo player. Wheel of Time, really hard going. I just stopped caring about all the characters and start to actively hate them, says the Burnside. A lot of problems in the story would be solved. People actually talk to each other. That's a big problem with a lot of storytelling, is where you just find yourself thinking, yeah, okay, this confusion could all be cleared up quite easily. So, yeah, just very nice, this review of the year. Spies Like Us. When Jessica Chastain realised that espionage thrillers about women rarely exist, she decided to do something about it. Meet the 355, a spy squad to give Bond and Hunt a run for their money. I hope that does well. When is that film out? Usually says at the end, doesn't it? In cinemas, 7th of January. I'll go and check that out. California Dreaming. Licorice Pizza is the latest Paul Thomas Anderson film to be made in his beloved San Fernando Valley. Personal interview talks about childhood, family, and tells us why there's no place like home. Another... Are you alright, love? Yeah. Are you...
I'm the bath. I'm cold and shivering.
Okay. Right, so that's another really beautiful bit of design. There's one thing I'll say about Empire. It's a quality magazine from that perspective. Nice interview with Paul Thomas Anderson. Really gets into stuff. Again, nice bit of design here for this celebration of the werewolf classic, The Howling. They talked to Joe Dante, who directed that. Some good pictures in there. There's a good retrospective piece on Walter Hill's The Driver, which is justifiably described as a masterpiece there. Kim Newman reviews various cult films. There's a good sort of oral history thing about The Sopranos. Sopranos stars Michael Imperioli and Steve Sherpa reflect on 5 of the show's most iconic characters. They talk about Tony, Carmela, Christopher, Bobby Bacala, and Paulie Walnuts. Pablo Bonzo, my brother sings his own version of the Neighbours theme tune. Neighbours, it's about misunderstandings. If they talk to each other, they would save some time. Yeah, fair dues. Garth Marenghi's Development Hell, in the world exclusive, the planet's most prolific horror novelist, writes for Empire about the Marenghi masterpieces that could have been very much my shit. Very much my shit. What are the things he writes about? The Four-Tokening. Mysterious signs appear in Aylsham Village Square. First the Four-Tokening, then another announcing the Portending. When one marked the presaging collapses on a pensioner welding skull to sacrum, the local town parish council suspects the work of mysterious cosmic forces, when the auguring also appears, followed by the prognosticating and the vaticinating, a motion to confirm all aforesaid suspicion is passed by a slim majority vote. But what do the sinister signs mean? And can both the elected and non-elective representatives stop the presaging before the forerunning arrives and the harbinging commences? Unfortunately, this failed to progress past the elevator at Warner's. Thunder Tin Man, ex-sheet metal worker Thunder Tin Man, battles the forces of darkness in industrial change. Alternative titles: Tin Man, Call Me Thunder, Roll of Thunder, Hear My Tin Man, Thunder Tintin, and Devil in the Metal. Anyway, very funny. I love a bit of Merengue. Garth Merengue is on BritBox, by the way. This is a good feature, story of the shot, about how they got the shot of the giant Will Ferrell in the Elf classroom. And the ranking, they rank Bond movie songs. Their top 10 is dubious. Their top song, Goldfinger. At number 2, Nobody Does It Better. At number 3, You Know My Name, Chris Cornell. Wouldn't have it that high. It's a decent song. We Have All the Time in the World at 4. GoldenEye at 5 should be higher. Live and Let Die at 6 should be higher. Diamonds Are Forever. Skyfall should possibly higher. License to Kill. Thunderball 10. Where's Duran Duran? Where's View to a Kill? Come on. The Burnzoid, Garth Merengue. I'm probably the only author who's written more books than he's read. Yeah. I know writers who use subtext. They're all cowards. 6 of the best. Empire selects 6 of the month's most essential movies. Mulholland Drive reissue, Sweetheart on DVD, Malignant on DVD, Let's Scare Jessica to Death. What's BR? I don't know what BR is. Blu-ray, of course. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, I enjoyed it. That's out on DVD, Blu-ray and 4K. And Swallow, a happy housewife who's got it all, except she's not happy with any of it. So there we go. What can I say? On top, doggy, and normal. The Neon Lady, View to a Kill is a beast of a song. Should be at least top 5. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they're doing there. The Chris Cornell song is fine, right? But it's not a top 3 Bond. Yu-Gi-Oh! I know writers who use text. They're bigger fools than the subtext cowards. Back of the book, classic scene. Scene from The Apartment. So there you go, which is an incredible film. Blu-ray, my brain, big Ratchrolls. Yes, big mommy Ratchrolls. Right, so that was Empire. Do you know what? Let's just say it's an 8. It's an 8 or an 8.5 from me. Right, so cost-wise, Empire comes in at £5. It totally passes the train test. A lot of good features in there. And it's interesting. So, I don't know. Yeah, back Empire, I say. That's a January 2022 issue. Good. Pretty good, yeah. Great trilogy. Plus 69. I like the sound of that movie based around Boxing Day. It's always killer for me. Nice to be seen, Jesus. Mark Knossos, 0 out of 10. Cinema is a thoroughly discredited medium. Well, there we go. There we go for that. Right, and finally we come to the most cursed of the magazines that we're covering today. Yes, it's The Atlantic. The Burnzoid, how can it be the January 2022 edition? Well, magazines come out, basically, the magazine that comes out in November is the December issue. The magazine that comes out for December is the January issue. It's just a weird quirk of magazines, basically, because you don't want it, when it's on the shelf, you don't want it on the shelf seeming old, basically, so that's why they do it. It's like an old, they're always a month ahead, basically. The Neon Lady, these magazines are too good. I hope the Atlantic is demented as fuck. Oh, good news. Good news. Pablo Bonzo says, have you heard Alice Cooper's rejected Man with the Golden Gun Bond song? It's on Spotify. I have not. Mark Kenosis is making me laugh there with the new meth. Sounds promising. Yeah, new meth just dropped. Excellent, new meth just dropped. Right, here we go. Right, into the Atlantic. Right. A lot of ads here, sickos.jpg. On our watch, Rolex. An ad for Rolex. With them pretending to give a shit about the environment. An ad for Google. An ad for Heifer International. Swipe right for a better world. Take our matchmaking quiz to see which animal you would make a perfect gift for anyone on your list. Although I'd be worried that Lord Austin would see this and think it's, you know, the Tinder that he's been dreaming of. It's a new new magazine for upmarket alcoholics. Yeah, basically. Bit fragile today and can't deal with transphobic nonsense. Do I need to tap out, says Rachel? I haven't read it, but if I see that we're coming up for it, for something that you might want to tap out for, I will let you know. As far as I can tell, it's not trans obsessed in this issue. Right. So, 99 tips to make your retirement more comfortable is a book being sold in here. Suggests perhaps that's what the readership of The Atlantic is like. Old. In Dispatches, Facebook land. The social giant isn't just acting like an authoritarian power, it is one. As if we haven't heard that one before. Very boring design. Very boring design. Very boring design. Kind of reminds me of National Geographic page design from the 70s. Extremely, why would they make that so boring looking? A lot of, right. Unhappy returns. What really happened to all the pants that don't fit? This is basically just talking about, basically clothes that end up sent out. Really boringly designed again. Very boringly designed. Is it buy a house in the 90s? Yeah, that's how you improve your prepare for your retirement. Vincent Fernandez took loads of pictures of his life in. This is pictures of this guy's life in Fresno. It's quite nice pictures, but I suppose you could just go off who's writing the features. Yeah, I haven't seen any Jesse Single stuff or whatever in here. The men who are killing America's newspapers inside Alden Global Capital, the secretive hedge fund, cutting newsrooms and damaging democracy. It's a vulture on the top of some newspapers because they love to be very literal. Again, very boring. The design of this is very boring. The model is simple. Gut the staff, sell the real estate, jack up subscription prices, and wring out as much cash as possible. Yep. It's bad, but also those newspapers were bad anyway. How exactly Randall Smith chose Heath Freeman as his protege is a matter of speculation among those who have worked for the two of them. Ooh, burn. Freeman hectored publishers, demanding that they produce budget numbers off the top of their head. His marching orders were always the same. Cut more. So anyway, it goes on for ages. Very very boringly done. There's an ad for Balenciaga. James and Lindsay Sulzer have spent their careers developing technology to help people recover from injury or disease. A freak accident changed their work lives forever. So it's about that their daughter had a traumatic brain injury and they have been coming up with ways to make her life easier and better, basically, which is it's a pretty amazing feature. I'll give them that. Design is giving strong knockoff New Yorker vibes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Landfill, which is why textiles industry is one of the biggest pollution problems globally. Exactly, Pablo Bonzo. Slack made it easier to crack jokes and easier to stir up trouble. Employees love it, bosses don't. Several people are typing. Not a bad splash page for this article, I'll tell you that. But then they make it boring, just pages and pages of no imagery, really. Slack is bad. Turns out all productivity software is bad. The new meth. Here we go for people hoping to know what the new meth is. Different chemically than it was a decade ago. It's like new Coke. It's also like the drink rather than the powder. The drug is creating a severe wave of mental illness, and is worsening an already severe homelessness problem in the United States. Here's a story of how it's spread and what it's doing to people. Again, layout, no variety in layouts, pretty horrible. Bosses don't like anything to make jobs more bearable, says the Burnzoid. Agreed. Yu-Gi-Oh! Every time I hear Balenciaga, I think someone is mispronouncing Valencia. Yes. Working through all the chemicals on hand, by Bozenko's estimation, the lab could have produced 900 metric tons of meth. Wow, well, they're rocking that, aren't they? Various exploitative people in homelessness camps. Why, in one of the richest countries of the world, do you need homelessness camps? Well, because of this system. Yeah, anyway, goes on for pages. I feel it's quite exploitative. In The Culture and Critics, why did Dostoevsky write Crime and Punishment? He had no choice. Jesus meets Dostoevsky, takes one look at him, peers for a diagnostic incident into the tunnels of torment eyes, and performs an immediate exorcism. Brisk and bouncy, no fuss, in the Jesus style. Party's over, little devil, out you go. Slight buzzing sound and it's done. What a weird way to start this. And Dostoevsky, with the infernal reveler ejected, is relieved that second of his hemorrhoids, gambling habits, seizures, fevers, depression, hypochondria, appalling futuristic intuitions and obsessions. He is freed from the cell of his own skull and writes no more books ever. The Sinner and the Saint, Kevin Birmingham's inspired account of the genesis, philosophical and neurological, of Crime and Punishment will leave you in two minds about Dostoevsky, rather as the great Russian was of at least two minds about himself. That's a bad joke about mental health by the writer of this, James Parker. On the one hand, you'll be in awe of his writerly stamina, his dedication to the depths of experience, his artistic fidelity, his fragility. On the other, you'll be wondering if a good chunk of Crime and Punishment, a baggy, sweaty book, a sprawl, a trial, as even its admirers will conclude, might not be pure pathology. Oh, fuck this. Cherry meth is delicious, and I won't hear a word said against it, says Yu-Gi-Oh! Dr. Heroin, Popper's Max, Vanilla Meth, says Red Tick Seed. Slinker gotta love completely ignoring the structural factors that lead to drug use. Yeah, totally. So do the people who read this really like meth? Cherry meth, meth zero, Gethin Jones. I'll stick to crocodile. Thanks. Jonathan Franzen finally stopped trying too hard. At last, he put aside the pyrotechnics and went all in on his great theme, the American family, says Becca Rothfield. I couldn't give less of a shit about Jonathan Franzen. Didn't have to be this way. A brilliant account of 30,000 years of change upends the bedrock assumptions about human history. And here is the Atlantic again, being incredibly literal with its illustrations. In defense of the insufferable music fan, what we lose when we like everything. Oh, shut the fuck up. This is by Jack Hamilton. Musical genres aren't just labels imposed by an industry. They're shaped by passions and arguments, love and disgust. Crime Possible is a pretty easy book to read. It's not that long, to be honest. Yeah, exactly. And it's a good book. Fentanyl Tropical, says Yu-Gi-Oh! Okay, I mean, these are all branding genius. Meth Zero, no added fentanyl, says Recursive Rose. There's an essay on W.G. Sebald, which is actually, I have read this free of the magazine, just online, and it actually is quite a good one. It's about how he basically stole from other people's lives constantly. Germany's renowned and morally scrupulous novelist ransacked the stories of Jewish lives through his fictions. Does it matter? The great German author W.G. Sebald died in a car accident in 2001 at the age of 57, 13 years after he published his first work of literature and 5 short years after the English translation of a book of stories set in motion his rise to international renown. Months before his death, he was rumoured to be a candidate for the Nobel Prize. Throughout his career, critics struggled to find words to describe the quality of his sober prose. Yeah, he did nick stuff, honestly. Mark Canosis actually is right. I think he probably fucked it up, but that music article is right. It is right in a sense. Mark, you're right in a sense that it's bad when people say I like everything, right? Because it's bullshit, and it sort of just means you don't really like music at all. Some discernment, some choice about what you like and don't like is interesting, but the article's written in a very thoroughly annoying Atlantic way. Anyway, that essay goes on for ages, and then James Parker writes a thing at the end about how when you get yelled at, you probably deserve it. And how it's like good to be yelled at. Which is... Alright, James Parker, come see me. I'll fucking yell at you, lad. Right, The Atlantic. Is it worth the money? It certainly isn't. It is £8. No, but also the bland boosterism that Poptimism devolved into needs to be combated. Yeah, I agree with that as well, Mark. But it wasn't what the intention of Poptimism was meant to be, was it? I mean, but yes. Also, wow, it's got dark. There's a storm a-coming. That's why it's got dark here. Thank you for joining me for this magazine special. It's always a pleasure to see you all. And thank you for joining me across this week. Pablo Bonzo set John Sweeney on him. Single Meyer, £8. Mark Kenosis, £8 fucking pounds. Yeah, partly because it's an import magazine, and import magazines cost more money generally. Right. Yeah, thank you for joining me this week. Let me do the roll call. I'm the Broken Bottle Boy. You can follow me on Twitter at Broken Bottle Boy. Also in the chat, in the mod squad today was SK the Crusader. Hopefully he will tell you what his stream is tonight. In the chat today, Aiton, Commander Root, Dr. Fired, Airhabs, Yu-Gi-Oh, F2 Payer, Gledster, Heathmore 2401, Huge Assoy, Hybrid Media Art, Cap 606, Kinu 92, Chronotherm, Lilita, Mark Kenosis, the excellent Mark Kenosis, Pablo Bonzo. Do follow Pablo on Twitter and check out his horror show. It's very good. Rachology is here. Good to see you, Rachology. And glad that we managed to find an issue of The Atlantic that was not as turf-tastic as usual. Recursive Rose, thank you for joining us as ever, and your contributions to the chat always welcome. Red Tickseed, always a pleasure to see you. Rimastino, thanks for being here. Slinkermeyer is excellent. Do check out her photography on Instagram. Same username as here. Really, it's always good, but she's been posting some incredible shots over the past week. Spike Crap, Claire, good to see you. Burnzoy, thank you for your contributions. You've been excellent as ever. As to you as the Neon Lady, always good to see you. Royal Flush, VOK, and West Ferry 1798. This has been the Friday show of the paper thing, the magazine special. If you want to, SK is on tomorrow at 6 p.m. playing Surviving Mars to celebrate his new video on space. Tonight he's going to watch Milo Edwards do comedy. Well, that would be great. Nice one. Pablo Bonzo's got Chris Cantrell from The Delightful Sausage on his show next Wednesday. Ged Station is live. We're going to raid over to Ged Station. I'll just get the hold fire and I will do that. Yes, if you want to help decide what next week's magazine special includes, do chuck some coins into the paper fund and I will get the magazine that you tell me to get. There you go, paper fund. And remember, if you're watching this on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and comment. It's all good stuff. Right.
We're currently in and around A.
I'm being killed by a dog.
Right. Just gonna make the raid happen. Gotta go to the creator dashboard. Fun times. Yeah, I hope you. I do hope you enjoyed the show this week. It's been good to spend time with you all. Here we go. We're going over to Geds, who is doing GeoGuessr today. Bum, 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 bum. 3, 2, 1, go. And the raid is on.